Blue Jays keep the streak alive. They're the team with the longest opening day winning streak in the major leagues, and they did it in emphatic fashion today. They put the league on notice with their power, with their pitching, and with their defense. So we'll have that and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And cue the overreactions after one game in the 162-game regular season. But we don't care, because what we saw today is what we've been clamoring for all offseason long. A great start out of Jose Barrios. Wasn't always pretty at times, but he got through 6 great innings. He gave the Blue Jays some length, and he kept them in that ball game, especially when they were leading later on. We saw the power. We were clamoring for more power. The team was middle of the pack last year in home runs. They hit 3 of them today, and from some pretty key cogs as well. Everything was clicking today for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's going to be the question mark all season long. Can they sustain this kind of production? Can they sustain this kind of performance and intensity? But today was a great start against an arch rival in Tampa Bay, and a place that has given the Blue Jays some fits over the past few years. But this was a great watch as a Jays fan, and very exciting going into tomorrow's game.
Baseball is officially back, and it feels phenomenal. Quick reminder, hit the subscribe button if you're excited that the Blue Jays are back to playing. And Peter, lot to go over. We're just going to be focusing on the game today. Obviously, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit a home run, which I will show you guys in a little bit. Peter, let's just go over the box score here, and I'll get your thoughts on who impressed, because I think we both kind of agree. I mean, we saw in spring training how good that top 4 was. Obviously, Turner didn't have a great night, but Springer was mashing the ball in the spring. Vladdy was the best hitter in spring. Bo Bichette is Bo Bichette. Like, he is, I don't know, it was just an unbelievable game. George Springer hit the home run. We have Vladdy who hit the absolute moonshot, and I was telling this to some of my friends, like, I feel like last season, a game like this, I can't even remember, I'm sure it happened, but I can't remember it many times where a game like this happened where they hit multiple home runs, they hit with runners in scoring position. We saw Alejandro Kirk get a clutch hit, Kevin Kiermaier get a clutch hit. Everything came together, and they continued on that approach that worked in spring training, and to see it translate against a very, very good pitcher in Zach Eflin is very encouraging.
Yes, it actually took them a couple of games last year to hit their first home run of the season. George Springer made us wait a bit over 3 innings. So shout out to him for, killing the suspense and hitting a home run there to left center. But everyone pretty much contributed up and down that lineup, and I know he's going to get overshadowed by that 450-foot home run that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hit to center field. But Cavan Biggio was the Blue Jays' best player today by a long shot. I mean, used 2 walks. He hit the home run that kept the rally going. He I think it was the second run that the Blue Jays had, if I'm not mistaken. And that tag that he made
Unreal.
At second base as well to end the inning. I mean, defensively he was good. Base running wise, you always know that he's going to put in an honest day's work in that regard. And if he can hit for some power out of that 9 spot, I think that's just an added bonus for the Blue Jays. But the plate discipline was very good today. I think they drew around 6 or 7 walks. I'm not going to do the quick math there. Seven, right? 7 walks. 7 walks that the Blue Jays drew today. Hit 3 home runs. I mean, it was just an overall encouraging performance. And the big question mark, like I mentioned in the intro, Nick, is can they sustain this kind of performance? Obviously, it's not going to be expected every single night in a 162-game regular season. But still, you watch all these guys that need to be critical pieces for the Blue Jays this year, have a good game to start off the season, gets you a little bit excited, and I think it's a sign of good things to come.
Huge. And let's show the home run now without further ado. This pitch was absolutely mashed. We all knew it was gone. Most of the home runs were no doubters. Biggio's was 366 feet. But I mean, the audio was probably just playing on that, so I apologize if you heard the audio. I forgot to mute it again. But, Peter, unbelievable. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Obviously, game 1, overreaction. But something that I do want to point out was obviously the pitching, which was phenomenal. Jose Barrios was great. But the defense, I mean, you kind of mentioned it there. Biggio's tag kind of started the rally a little bit. It kept the Rays at bay for a little bit there. But then our bullpen was phenomenal, and the defense was also very, very good. We saw Vladdy with a great double play. We saw IKF, who got a ball absolutely smoked at him and kept it in front of him. Obviously, you'd like to technically see him trying to make a double play to that, but he kept the ball in front of him. Just everything looked good for the Blue Jays, and ultimately, I'm kind of just happy that the Jays were able to get this done, obviously get the win at this point of the year, and the bullpen was a huge positive, especially given kind of how hurt they are right now and how interesting it will be going forward to see how the Blue Jays are able to potentially handle these big swings with the starters. Because, I mean, let's be honest here, these starters are phenomenal, but when the bullpen has the injuries that they have to Eric Swanson, the injuries that they have to Jordan Romano, it becomes very, very interesting and a bit more difficult going forward.
Yeah, and that's a big question mark heading into the season, right, Nick? It's the injuries in the bullpen. It's the uncertainty of who's going to get you outs in high leverage. And today it was Nate Pearson, Trevor Richards, and Tim Meza. I mean, that's not the trio that we're going to see every game. We did see Jimmy Garcia get up there in the sixth inning when Jose Barrios was on. But he was going to be the next guy. He was going to be the next guy to come in and kind of short things up. But then the Jays took a lead, and that's when Trevor Richards came in that situation. So, it's going to have to be by committee. Yeah. You're going to have to get contributions from everyone up and down that bullpen. And today was a good start. You didn't have to burn too many arms because Jose Barrios was able to go 6 innings. And I was very impressed with what I saw from the pitchers.
Yeah, and you can see from Keegan Matheson here, it says this is exactly what the Blue Jays need to have happen. The top of the half bangs, the bottom half strings together, some hits, an absolute blueprint of an inning. And, I mean, obviously Donnie Baseball is now the offensive coordinator. It's the big thing going around Twitter and going around everything about how Donnie Baseball may save the Blue Jays. And I'm very impressed with the approach. I mean, obviously we saw last season several times throughout the year where they wouldn't take walks. They weren't taking they were striking out a ton. You mentioned it. The strikeouts were just so unbelievably frustrating to watch, whether that was even a lot of the players they have now, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Brandon Belt, Matt Chapman, not to necessarily hate on those guys or anything, but to see, obviously they still struck out a little bit, but to see the amount of walks they had, the patience they had, the base running was good. There seems to be some sort of shift, and we've said this every year, obviously, the attitude has changed and all this, and it's only game one. But they look like they wanted to win, obviously, and it looked like they came very prepared today, whether that was the approach versus Zach Eflin against the bullpen. The defense was very good. They made the smart plays, aside from George Springer diving on that ball when they were up by 4 or whatever it was. But aside from that, an absolute, it was a great game to watch. It was very enjoyable. Yeah. And I think going forward, this is going to be a big, blueprint for how they should be playing and how they should expect themselves and hold themselves to that standard for these higher teams. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Right. So the way that this game started, it had the makings of a 2023 game in the sense where you could have seen Zach Eflin go 7 scoreless innings, giving up like 2 hits or something like that. That's the kind of feel that it had because early on in the first 3 innings, the first time through the order, the Jays were jumpy. They weren't waiting for their pitch, and they were trying to do damage on Zach Eflin, who was nibbling on the corners, and he wasn't giving them anything to hit. But then the approach changed. George Springer came up, he hit that home run, and then the tide started to shift for the Toronto Blue Jays. They were walks, they were hitting for a little bit more power, and you saw stuff start to materialize for them. Whereas last year, we would have seen them just kind of go through the motions for 6 innings, and everyone up and down that lineup is trying to be the guy. That's what their problem was last year. Everyone was trying to be the guy and get themselves out of a rut instead of just passing the baton. That's what they did today. They passed the baton, and Keegan Matheson hit the nail on the head right there. That was a blueprint, not only inning, but a game. Just if it's not there, don't force it. If your pitch doesn't come, pass the baton to the next guy. You have some talented hitters in that lineup. Let them cash you in. Let them get the job done. You don't always have to be the hero, and I think the Jays at times last year were playing hero ball. George Springer, they mentioned it in the broadcast. He was trying to do a little bit too much last season, and it was evident in the way that they were playing and in the numbers as well. But I think this is a good step in the right direction. Now the question is whether or not they can repeat it until the end of the season.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Keegan Matheson hit on the head. Hopefully they can lock it in and figure it out and continue to do exactly what they did tonight. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now, and we'll see you tomorrow.